All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our BCBA exam practice series, where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and practice exams. As always, when you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. 121. Two coaches are getting ready to time how fast one of their players can run the 40-yard dash. The runner takes off and they both start their clocks. As the runner passes the finish line, they stop their clocks. One coach records 4.6 seconds, while another coach records 4.4 seconds. We can say with certainty that both coaches lack what? Question is asking about what? It's a little ambiguous, right? Because the question is saying both coaches lack something, but it's not really specific. However, reading the question, we can kind of determine it's a data-driven question because we have two different individuals taking data and their data doesn't match. One coach had 4.6 seconds, one had 4.4 seconds. In other words, they took duration data on the same behavior, it didn't match. And so when you get a data question and they're asking about the data characteristics, you want to think accuracy, reliability, validity, and inter-observer agreement. Accuracy says what? Accuracy says we are measuring exactly what happened, right? So in this case, however fast the runner actually ran, that would be accurate. Now, we have to say with certainty that we lack something. And since one coach has 4.6 and one has 4.4, we can't be certain both are inaccurate. One's going to be inaccurate because they're different, but we can't say both are inaccurate. So we have to scratch off A. What about B, reliability? Reliability says we can record the same thing over and over again. Since we only have one data point from each, we can't say they're reliable, but we can't say they aren't because we have no proof that they are or they're not. And we have to be certain they lack these things. So C, validity. Validity says we're measuring the target behavior or we're measuring the correct behavior or the behavior of interest. Since they are measuring how fast the player can run the 40-yard dash, they were both valid. You can have validity and not be accurate or reliable. These three should go together. However, you can have one and not the others. So what we know for sure they lack is inter-observer agreement. And why do we know they lack that? Well, because inter-observer agreement says you're measuring the same thing and getting the same data. Their data don't match. So we know they don't have inter-observer agreement. One sees it one way, another sees it a different way. Inter-observer agreement says two or more people measure the same thing, they record the same outcome. We've got different outcomes. Both coaches lack inter-observer agreement. Suzanne is using a self-management program to help with some of her self-stimulatory behaviors. She wants to reduce the amount of time she twirls her hair every day, so she starts measuring this behavior. Over the last few days, however, she has started to record nail biting and including it in the measurement of her hair twirling behavior, but unintentionally. What is likely occurring? We have another measurement type question. So what is occurring here? Remember, we're doing all our work in the question, not even looking at answer choices yet. We have Suzanne using a self-management program to help with some behaviors. She wants to reduce the amount of time she twirls her hair every day, so that's what she's measuring. She is measuring the amount of times she twirls her hair every day. However, she is now recording nail biting and including it in the measurement, but unintentionally, meaning she didn't change her measurement, she didn't change the plan. Over the last few days, though, she's now recording and measuring something different. What do we call that when that happens? A, treatment drift. With treatment drift, you've got a treatment in place already. As far as we know, there's no treatment yet. Treatment drift says there's a treatment in place, and over time, the treatment changes unintentionally. We don't have a treatment yet. She's not changing the treatment. What is she changing? She's changing the measurement. So B, observer drift, is much more relevant here. Observer drift says whatever you're supposed to be measuring slowly changes over time. Unintentionally, whatever she's measuring is changing over time, but not on purpose. Reactivity is when a measurement or a treatment changes due to the presence of another person or thing in the environment. Suzanne's doing this alone. There is no reactivity. She's not reacting to anything. And then treatment fidelity, well, it's kind of the opposite of treatment fidelity. Well, if we had a treatment, because treatment fidelity says everything is going as planned, right? Well, when you have fidelity, measurement's good, treatment's good, everything's good. Suzanne, and it happens, has now started to engage in observer drift. What she's meaning to measure has changed, and now she's measuring something in addition to it. So she has to get back on track and get back to measuring just the hair twirling and not the nail biting. 123, Matthew is laughing and joking around with Dan, the 8-year-old boy that he works with, in Dan's room. Dan is working on a puzzle while Matthew helps. Whenever Matthew's supervisor arrives, Matthew is no longer laughing and he asks Dan to sit at the table and complete some worksheets. Based only on this information, what can we say is likely occurring relative to Matthew's behavior? All right, based on this information, meaning we need the best answer. We always need the best answer, but if this says based on only on this information, you're really looking for just the best answer. What can we say is likely occurring relative to Matthew's behavior? Let's look at Matthew's behavior. He's laughing and joking with Dan. Dan's working on a puzzle. Matthew is helping. Whenever Matthew's supervisor arrives, what happens? Matthew's behavior changes dramatically. He's no longer laughing. He tells Dan to sit at the table, complete some worksheets. Matthew's treatment, his whole persona has shifted. Why did it shift? What changed? Well, the supervisor arrived. So we just talked about these different variables in treatment. So what can we say for sure? Do we know treatment drift is occurring? Well, we don't. We're not sure what the treatment is supposed to be. Maybe the puzzle is part of the treatment. Maybe not. We can't say Matthew is engaging in treatment drift because maybe he was doing what he was supposed to be doing, but then his supervisor arrived and for some reason, his behavior changed. He still could be doing what he's supposed to be doing, but just something else. So we can't be sure treatment drift is occurring. We also can't say observer drift is occurring because he doesn't appear to be measuring anything in this question. What is likely happening is C, reactivity. Matthew is reacting to a supervisor's presence, which is changing the treatment. It's changing the way Matthew is acting. That is reactivity. He's reacting to a supervisor's presence. What about treatment fidelity? Again, we don't know what the treatment is supposed to look like. So we can't be sure if Matthew is right or wrong here. All we know is Matthew's treatment changed when the supervisor arrived. So we know for sure, or we can say is likely, he's engaging in reactivity in the presence of a supervisor. 124, you, a supervising behavior analyst, are doing a year-end survey with all of the families that receive services from your clinic. The surveys indicate that 90% of families are happy with their technicians that work with them and would like to keep those same technicians for the next year. Personnel-wise, what should you do now as the supervising analyst? All right, we have a personnel question. Personnel questions give people a lot of trouble. What we want to remember is we handle personnel just like we would clients. We have treatment plans, we reinforce, we punish. It's just behavior, right? We ABA our personnel just like we do our clients. So, as the analyst, what happened? Well, you, doing a year-end survey with all the families that receive services, take a survey for your families, take a survey. They say that 90% of families are happy. That's excellent, right? With the technicians they work with, they want to keep those technicians. So we know 90% of families are happy. 10%, however, did not indicate that. We don't know what they indicated, but it wasn't that they're happy and they want to keep those same technicians. Now, if you get those results, personnel-wise, as the supervisor, what should you do? A, provide a raise to all the technicians who receive positive reviews. Be super careful about answer choices like this for personnel. Why? Well, since we are treating personnel just like clients, everything needs to be personalized. Maybe not everybody's motivated by a raise. Maybe some of your good technicians want a week off. You don't know. So be very, very careful about taking something A that's a common assumption and applying it to all technicians. A raise might be great, but we want to be careful. B, attempt to figure out what is maintaining the strong technician performance is much better because you need to know what's reinforcing these technicians. Why are all these families happy? Why is the work continuing to be good? We are trying to figure it out. We're not assuming they all want raises. We're just attempting to figure out what is maintaining the strong technician performance. Just like a client who's having a good week or 2 weeks or month, what's reinforcing that? What's maintaining that? C, begin punishment for the 10% of technicians who receive poor reviews. We don't know about the 10% of the reviews, one. And two, we're not just going to start punishing them because we haven't done anything else. We just have the survey results, which is indirect to begin with, right? So just starting there, this is an indirect survey, meaning it's going to give us some information. We now have to go directly observe and measure and gather and create our own assumptions. So we can't just provide raises to all technicians who receive positive reviews without further assessment. We can't begin punishment without further assessment. What we have to do is make an attempt by more assessment to figure out what is maintaining the strong technician performance. So be very careful on personnel questions about painting broad strokes on very individualized plans. 125, you work with the client 2 days a week in their school and 2 days a week in their home. You change the home reinforcement schedule to an FR2, which will provide more reinforcement than before. To try and avoid behavior contrast, what should be done following the change? Behavior contrast says what? Behavior contrast says if you're working in 2 environments, or you have a kid in 2 environments, if you change the schedule in one environment, you change something in one environment, which changes the behavior, and you don't change anything in the other environment, those behaviors are typically going to move in the opposite direction. Meaning, if I work with home and clinic and I start reinforcing in the home, and I increase the behavior in the home, but I don't change anything in the clinic. Behavior contrast says since the behavior increased in home, I didn't change anything in clinic, the clinic behavior is going to actually decrease. So in this case, you work school and home. Those are your settings. You change the home schedule to an FR2. So we know we've changed the schedule in home to an FR2. If we want to avoid behavior contrast, what do we need to do? Because our other environment is school. A, train the parents on the new in-home schedule. Absolutely, right? We have to train the parents, but that's still the same environment. We're worried about the other environment with behavior contrast. B, begin using a punisher in the school setting. That's not going to help behavior contrast. If anything, it might just make it worse because that's a change that isn't relevant to this reinforcement schedule change. So B likely isn't going to be the best approach for behavior contrast. C, adjust the reinforcement schedule in school so that less reinforcement is delivered. Well, we don't want to do that, right? Because we're doing it, that's the opposite of what we want to achieve, because then behavior contrast is likely to occur. What we should do is try to change the reinforcement schedule in school to match the home. Now, the question is specifically asking about avoiding behavior contrast. So it's going to be based on your assessment and your goals. But if you're going to try to avoid behavior contrast, then ideally all environments are going to be the same. That's how you would best avoid behavior contrast. 126, every month you must log your hours into your company's database. The process is a 5-step chain that you know by heart. Today, your company tells you they are adding an additional step to the chain for security purposes. What type of chaining would likely be the quickest way to teach the new step? Chaining question, we have a chaining question, and what are we trying to accomplish? The quickest way to teach a new step. So we know we have a 5-step chain that we know by heart. We've mastered it, we know how to do it. Today, you're adding one additional step to the chain. Now, if you've got a chain that you've already mastered, you already know, is it the quickest way to reteach that entire chain? Well, no, you're only adding one step. So if we have a situation where we have a person or a learner or a client and they know most of a chain and you just have a few steps to teach, what's the quickest way to teach that? Well, A and B, forwards and backwards chaining, involve teaching each individual step. We don't need to go through that process. What we can do is see total task chain. We can let the learner, in this case you, engage in the whole chain and only teach the necessary steps that we identify, which will likely be the additional step. Total task chaining would be the quickest way to teach that brand new step given the information. Behavior chain interruption strategy doesn't really seek to teach new steps. What it does is it interrupts known steps to try to evoke new or derived behavior that aren't directly taught. So, what type of chaining would be quickest way to teach the new step? Likely total task chaining, because we have one step added to a known 5-step chain. 127, what type of analysis involves measurement of behavior under a single condition without manipulation of that condition? So what type of analysis involves measurement of behavior under a single condition, key word here, without manipulation of that condition? So we aren't manipulating anything, okay? You're measuring a behavior in one condition, meaning one environment under one set of conditions, without manipulation. So without manipulation, we can immediately eliminate experimental analysis and functional analysis because both of those involve manipulation. So a descriptive analysis is exactly what we're describing here. You're describing what's happening to a behavior in a condition without manipulating anything. Correlational analysis, you're taking it a step further. You're measuring behavior in multiple conditions and comparing them to see if there's possible correlation, which is going to lead to an experiment. We're not quite there yet. We've got a single condition, which is measuring the behavior, not manipulating anything, and we're going to describe what we're seeing. So our answer is descriptive analysis. Thank you for watching. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and study guides and practice exams. As always, spread the word, like, subscribe, let us know when you pass, work hard, study hard. See you soon.